It's Moal Sumidai, and I'm here covering the DFARM conference, and I'm the chief editor of the Clinical Trial Vanguard. I'm here with Peyton Howell, CEO of Parexel, and we'll be discussing some very interesting insights about the clinical trial industry and what's going on. Welcome, Peyton.
Thank you so much. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, right. So, can you tell me perhaps, before we dive in, we know you recently became the CEO at Parexel in May. Can you share with our readers an overview of this transition and your priorities at Parexel for this coming year?
Sure. Yes, I'm about 100 days as the new CEO of Parexel. I've been using that time to make sure I'm getting really closely connected with our customers, first and foremost, and also with our employees around the world. We have over 21,000 employees around the globe. So a lot of listening, a lot of learning, really trying to identify what are the things that we are doing great that we want to build upon, and where do we want to change for the future? Where are our biggest areas of opportunity? So it's been an exciting time. I will tell you, it's been a fast 100 days, including 2 board meetings. So it's been busy, but very excited about the opportunity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, in your role as CEO at Parexel, what are some of the major trends you're observing right now in the clinical trials industry in 2024? And how do you anticipate the industry will progress in the coming years?
Yeah, it is such an exciting time for clinical research because there actually is a lot of change. In terms of the biggest trends, I'd probably say the first one is probably AI, ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Because we're really full in on a wide range of applications, particularly ones that improve quality and efficiency. I think those are the kind of no regret type opportunities within AI, and that's where we're focused today. But we have initiatives for that across our business, all in different stages, and are reporting back on that actually to our board of directors on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
The next big area I would say is everything about really patient-focused trial design. And here at DFARM, that's already been a big topic this morning. I was able to kick off DFARM with a patient speaker, and I think it really resonates with how do we get more efficient with running our clinical trials, but make those protocols better for patients. And then I'd say that probably the third biggest trend would really be the next generation of decentralized clinical trials, which I also include going into the community setting, looking at different types of sites. We know that there's challenges across many sites that are overburdened and are struggling with workload. So how do we bring more PIs, more sites, and actually get closer to patients? And ultimately that connects all of the goals that we have for patients. So I'd say those are the 3 biggies.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the keynote session, which I attended, fascinating discussion, by the way. You had the so. Could you share some of like the major takeaways from this session?
Yeah, for me, the highlight of our patient keynote session today was a few things. First of all, we were lucky to have a patient advocate who comes from our industry. So she knew about clinical trials, and it's such a stark reminder that we need to make sure everyone is aware of clinical research and clinical trials before they have a diagnosis, before they need access to one. And that's really, I think she made a call to action of the whole audience, of all of us talking about that and sharing her story as an opportunity. I think it was also really compelling how she, as now a patient advocate, is actually working with the FDA and others to help influence clinical trial design to really make sure that patient voice is impacted, and know that for so many diseases, the patient story is very, very different. And that kind of irregularity is a challenge for clinical research. So how do we really make a difference in terms of the design of trials to be able to have that incorporated? So I thought it was just a great way to start the conference, centering us all with the patient.
Mm-hmm. And so some of the challenges right now in the industry are financial in nature.
Yep.
And I actually wrote about this in another article about the struggles that pharma companies will be facing in the coming years. We're looking at expiring patents,
Yes.
operational inefficiencies, like post-COVID, they're holding on to more assets.
Right.
They're not relying on the global infrastructure like they used to. Um, Other factors include, of course, inflation. So
Yeah.
inflationary pressures are keeping things a bit challenging for pharma.
Yes.
And also
For us too.
the inflation.
Yep.
What is it? The Inflation
Reduction
Act.
IRA. Yes.
That's also going to be impacting pharma because of Medicare negotiations, right? So, you know, the aligning innovations to solve big problems in clinical trials in a resource-constrained environment is one of the topics that was discussed.
Yep.
What are your perspectives on some of the constraints that
Yeah.
the industry is currently facing. And how would you advise biopharmaceutical sponsors how they can adapt their strategies
Yep.
to operate in this new environment?
That's right. There
Mhm.
are a lot of pressures right now. We're all being asked to do more with less. And you're right, those inflationary pressures, we see them throughout, right? And they directly impact sites, and then that bubbles all the way forward. But it certainly has ballooned some of the costs that we're seeing. So that's a huge challenge, which means we do have to do things differently. On today's panel, I thought we actually had a number of thought provoking ideas of really stepping back and looking at clinical trial complexity in a different light. What are the procedures, for example, in a protocol that we can actually streamline or reduce the number of visits? The burden on patients actually is also a burden in cost. So being able to align those two things, I think, is one of the big things. One of the things we didn't get to talk about a lot today that we need to talk about more, though, is bringing more countries also into clinical research. We're seeing increases, and the data shows some of that, which is great to be able to see some of that coming through, but it's still tiny. A great example is India, right? We're seeing growth in India from a percentage perspective, but it's still minuscule and it's still underrepresented when you look at clinical research. That actually can also be used to reduce the cost of the trial, offset a few sites in the US with some sites in countries that are low cost can make a huge difference, but it also means sites that have capacity come to bear. So those are the tougher things, and no one wants to be the one. So I think we have to keep pushing together to really make sure that global clinical research is truly global.
Mhm.
And that'll help us with some of these challenges that are economic, financial, and regulatory in nature.
And also governmental in nature.
Absolutely.
Like some countries, for example, like
Yeah.
Morocco, don't have that infrastructure, right? Someone needs to go in there and actually go build it in collaboration with the government,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's a gap. There are a number
Yeah.
of countries, and obviously with geopolitical, we've lost some of our capacity to really grow clinical researches in countries like Ukraine. So it's a true challenge for the industries. We're going to have to think differently, I think, to be able to move forward.
Absolutely. And how is Parexel adjusting to those changing market forces? So you mentioned expanding globally.
Yeah.
Are there other operational aspects that can be done in our existing
Yep.
infrastructures?
We are looking at other countries.
Hmm.
So we are active in that area, and we're lucky to have our big regulatory consulting team that can help us assess the opportunities or challenges in different countries. We're also looking at using different geographic hubs, take those any back office roles that we can to support the work and reduce costs there. And I think that's where our sponsors are challenging us. Where can we be more efficient?
Hmm.
We know that there's headwinds on the unit costs in countries like the United States. So where else can we offset that differently? And I'm excited for conferences like this where that's an open part of the discussion, right? How can we really make those changes together? And then we also have to be really careful with what studies move forward. Make sure we have studies that are going to be successful, protocols that are meaningful and impactful for patients and sites, because those will enroll quickly and will be cost effective. The studies that struggle are costly for us all. And so we really have to challenge those studies before we initiate and start up those studies.
Hmm.
Those are some of the big examples.
And is there anything else you'd like to add that you felt I might have missed in this
Yeah.
interview?
I think the other big initiative that we're working on is talent. Growing our own talent, I think, is also going to be important to our success. Looking to identify new sources of talent and actually bring them up through the clinical research ranks. For us, not just in the US, but in other countries, we think that's critical. The next generation of talent at all levels is going to be needed. And so that's the other big area we're investing. And I think it's an area that we know we need talent at CROs, but also at sponsors and sites as well.
Hmm.
So that's the other big effort. And then, of course, everything we do is just grounded in the patient. And you're going to see us continue to push the envelope on how we really bring patients into the center of clinical research.
Thank you. This is Howell, everyone, CEO of Parexel. And I'm looking forward to keeping you posted on additional updates at the DFARM conference. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks so much.